Hey y'all, this is Pickleball on Call, back for another consult. This is the Luzz Glider 2026, an upper all-court paddle known for its great combination of firepower and control and a Gen 3 style construction. At just $100 after code, the Luzz Glider is an excellent budget option for every player who's looking for balanced performance. So is there anything that really makes this paddle stand out? Just as a disclaimer, Luzz did send me this paddle completely free of charge. However, I did not receive any compensation, and Luzz did not have any input in this review. As always, the testing and opinions you're about to see are my own, so with all that being said, let's get straight into the data. The Luzz Glider 2026 utilizes a traditional Gen 3 style construction. At its center is a suspended honeycomb polypropylene core utilizing 8mm cells. On the perimeter is a foam channel and edge wall designed to give you that characteristic diving board response. On the surface of the paddle, Luzz has integrated what they've termed their 984 aero coating, a clear surface layer designed to improve surface friction and resistance to wear. In addition, Luzz claims that this coating integrates into the carbon fiber weave, which in theory is supposed to enhance the bond between the surface layers and the underlying core, leading to long-term stability and consistency. We'll see how well these claims hold up in just a little bit. At the time of making this video, the Luzz Glider is only available in the hybrid shape. Out of the box, my Luzz Glider measured 7.97 ounces static, with a swing weight of 109.6, a twist weight of 6.44, and a balance point of 23.4 centimeters, which falls exactly in line with what Luzz advertises. The Luzz Glider can very easily be played stock, but there's plenty of room for modification. Instead of pickle clips, I personally set mine up with 0.5 gram per inch tape. 6 inches starting from the bottom corners up the sides, and then another 2 inches overlapping the very top, leaving me with 4 grams per side. And as usual, I finished things up with 2 layers of overgrip. This setup brought the swing weight from 109.6 to 114.1, the twist weight from 6.44 to 7.29, and the balance point from 23.4 to 23.3 centimeters. Overall, these modifications did add a little bit of plow on my shots, but they mainly served to improve the paddle's stability and handling, to make it feel a little more substantial. Firepower metrics are standardized using 3 reference paddles that were tested side by side with a stock and broken-in Luzz Glider. Power is defined as ball speed off of a full swing. I recorded an average serve speed of 56.8 miles per hour, which translates to a power rating of 8.0 out of 10 on my scale. Dynamic pop, defined as ball speed off of a shorter stroke, such as with a flick or a punch volley, averaged 38.8 miles per hour, which translates to a dynamic pop rating of 7.0 out of 10. Static pop is defined as ball speed after contact with a stationary paddle, such as with a block or a reset. I use my in-game impressions as a proxy for the paddle's PB core. In short, this paddle does do a great job at taking pace off of aggressive shots. While there's still an occasional pop-up here and there, the overall rebound velocity was relatively tame and easy to predict, especially when compared to a lot of paddles on today's market, which tend to be power paddles and are on the more poppy side of things. For this reason, I'd give static pop a rating of 7.5 out of 10. The Luzz Glider 2026 receives an overall firepower score of 7.5 out of 10, which places it at the top of the all-court category. Spin was measured using slow-motion footage of heavy topspin serves. Luzz's moderately coarse 984 Aero Enhanced Grit generated an average top-end spin reading of 2,228 RPM, which translates to high levels of spin in my database. In addition to spin generation, I tested the surface durability of Luzz's 984 Aero coating. After just 10 hours of playtesting, I did notice that the initial surface roughness had worn down moderately, and subsequent spin testing revealed that spin had gone down to 2,082 RPM, which amounts to a 6.8% loss in spin. I continued to run this test for another 10 hours, and after a total of 20 hours of playtesting, spin readings on my glider dropped to 1,911 RPM, which is 15.3% lower than the original reading. So unfortunately, this means that Luzz's 984 Aero coating does not actually improve wear resistance. Control is loosely defined as how well a paddle allows you to place your shots where you intended on placing them. I calculate control by taking a weighted average of a paddle's firepower, forgiveness, and playability while factoring in my in-game impressions. As always, this is a very subjective and relative rating, and everyone has their own take on what determines a paddle's control. So, taking its moderated pop, balanced playability, and relatively high forgiveness into consideration, the Luzz Glider 2026 scores a 5.5 out of 10 in my control rating, which makes it a pretty good choice for players who are more conscious or trying to improve improve their soft game. However, with that being said, beginners should still err on the side of caution when considering this paddle, as while it does have more control than most of the mainstream paddles you see nowadays, it is still an upper all-court paddle with moderately high levels of pop. The Luzz Glider also offers a pretty predictable output thanks to its favorable sweet spot profile, which I'll put up on the screen. As always, a green shaded area represents the paddle's optimal sweet spot, whereas the yellow shaded area represents the totality of the paddle's sweet spot. While not oversized, the sweet spot on the glider is pretty uniform and large. I did notice a very slight drop off in response starting about halfway down the paddle face, but there really isn't a significant change in performance until you get closer to the handle, which is pretty standard for most paddles. On the court, the Luzz Glider offers a moderately stiff and hollow response, with a very slight touch of spring that's characteristic of a lot of Gen 3 style diving board constructions. The 8mm cells also add a nice relief of softness and density, which makes the glider's overall feel profile relatively well balanced and pleasant. In terms of break-in, the glider does seem to open up pretty nicely within the first 5 hours of play, and I would estimate that break-in completes by about the 10-hour mark. During this time, you'll notice a very slight boost in firepower and improvement in the sweet spot as the suspended core starts to loosen up and add a little bit of softness and spring to the paddle's feel. At just $100 after code, Luzz's 2026 glider is an easy recommendation to players of almost all skill levels who are looking for a Gen 3 style paddle that blends good offensive capability with good control and a consistent, clear response. While the 984 aero coating does not live up to Luzz's promises, the glider is still a great wallet-friendly alternative to more popular and similar performing paddles such as the original 6.0 Coral. In addition, there are rumors that Luzz will be coming out with another glider variation that utilizes what is hopefully a more durable version of their 984 aero coating. Everything considered, and as a paddle without durable grit, I would personally have to give the Luzz Glider 2026 an overall rating of 7.0 out of 10. I think the glider is a great testament to the fact that older constructions aren't necessarily obsolete. However, players will need to come to terms with the reality of performance degradation as the grit wears down over time. And this wraps up my review of the 2026 Luzz Glider. Thank you everyone once again for being part of this community. Let me know what paddle you want me to review next, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.